Hello everyone. So today we're looking at 1 Corinthians chapter 11. In verse 1, Paul says, "Imitate me just as I also imitate Christ." Paul knew that he followed Jesus, so he did not hesitate to tell the Corinthian Christians to imitate his walk with the Lord. He knew that the Corinthians needed an example, and he was willing to be such an example. So today we're being called to imitate Christ so that those around us would look at us and see Christ through us. Then from verse 2 to verse 16, Paul talks about head coverings for women. He says the head of every man is Christ, and the head of every woman is man, and the head of Christ is God. So with these words, Paul makes it clear that God has established principles of order, authority, and accountability. So Paul also calls the men and the women who were praying and prophesying in the assembly of Corinth to respect the culture. In those days, the women were expected to have their heads covered, while the men's heads were to remain uncovered. It was an abomination to have a man with a covered head. So, from this, today we're being called to respect culture and also to respect doctrine. Then in the last part of this chapter, Paul talks about the communion. So in the first part from verse 17 to verse 20, he reprimands them because of how they used to take the communion. There was no unity amongst them, and they would come to the temple just to fill up themselves, to be satisfied. Others would start taking the communion before even others come. But going down from verse 23, Paul elaborates how we are supposed to take the communion. He tells us how we're supposed to take the communion in a divine manner. So on the first part it says, "This is my body." So in taking the bread, we are called to remember the body broken for us, that is Jesus' body. And then the cup, this is the cup of the new covenant in my blood. So in receiving the cup, we are called to remember the blood of Jesus and the new covenant. Then lastly but not least, you proclaim the Lord's death till he comes. So while the Lord's Supper looks back at what Jesus did on the cross, it also looks forward to the coming of Jesus. So we are being called from this last part of the chapter to participate in taking communion. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day.